What's up, people? Welcome to this episode of the By the Hood podcast, a webcast, because I don't know how you're consuming this content. I'm your host, as always. My name is Jimmy, and as we start off every show, that is with gratitude. Thank you to everyone in the By the Hood. You know what I'm gonna start calling it? By the Hood universe. You know what I'm saying? Like we got our own universe of everything that goes on. So, shout to everybody in the BTH universe, BTHU, that supports everything we got going on. That includes all of our members from MDC Strategy, which is our private group, which powers By the Hood. You can see that at the bottom of the screen. If you're listening to the audio, go to mdcstrategy.com for more information. My partner in crime, Core, is with me. Core, what's up, good brother?
What's really good, man?
Ain't nothing, man. You know, this is our Wednesday show. We try to come on, do a quick
The
pod,
Loca.
talk about something in the world of personal finance and Black wealth. So I have something to share, with our audience as well. This is a little interesting. So this is from the Visual Capitalist. It's actually mapped out. It talks about how much does it take to be in the top 1% in each state in the country. So why is this relevant? This is relevant. This data is a little bit old. It's from 2023, towards the end of the year, September 2023. But nothing has really changed that much since then in terms of this data. But this is interesting because we're living in a post-pandemic world where now people have the ability to work from home in a lot of different instances, and you can practice what's called geographic arbitrage, where you make money from one place and live in another place, and it changes, how you can live your life. But let's look into it, though. Let's talk about, first of all, let's start with Pennsylvania because that's where, it's our regional bias. It takes the income. You need $589,000 a year to be in the top 1%. So my brother Core is in Texas now. It actually takes a little bit more to be in the top 1% in Texas. You need about $632K per year.
I'm not in the top 1%. I'm gonna keep it a style with you. I am not in the top 1%.
And again, this is income. This is income, not net worth, because those are two different things. This is just the income. Interestingly enough, across the entire nation, it takes about 600. The national average takes about 653K. That's the minimum to be in the top 1% across. Now, if we break this down racially, it looks a lot different. But I just thought this was interesting because you get to see across the country, where you can have, for instance, in Mississippi, 382K will put you in the top 1%. But if you're in California, 844K, which is even higher than New York, which is 777K. Now, it gets even higher than that, all right? Let me go to some of the data they break down here. Number one across the board is Connecticut. In Connecticut, you need to make at least $952,902 to be in the top 1%. Wow, that is absolutely wild. Number two is Massachusetts, then California third, then New Jersey, Washington, New York, so on and so forth. But this is actually
basically, if you live in the New England states, you need a couple dollars.
Yeah, now let's go to the bottom of it. The bottom of it will be West Virginia. So out of the 50 states in West Virginia, it takes about 367,582 to be in the top 1%. After that, Mississippi, then New Mexico, Kentucky, Arkansas, Louisiana, Oklahoma, Alabama, Indiana, Iowa, and Hawaii. So it's interesting because the states that tend to be more dense are where people are making this chicken. Which is,
you got to look at it. Connecticut and is not really that dense, but it's close to New York. So
that's what I'm saying. It's an offshoot of New York, though. If they were to take all the residents in Connecticut and probably look at where their home base is, it's probably New York.
For sure.
Yeah. So this is just interesting. I'm gonna share the link to this in the show notes as well as the description, so you can play around with the charts and see your specific state, because we have people that watch us from all over the country, and as well as people who listen. But it's just interesting, and here's why it's interesting, right? Because now I'm tied into Black wealth, because we understand that this is different for us. But also, if you just look at the national median household income, the national median household income is $75,000, which means you're not in the 1% of anything, but that's why it's the median income and not on the higher end. So it's just interesting to look at. And then the other part of this is when you look at what do the top 1% pay in taxes. That's also interesting. You know what I mean? So Connecticut, they pay about 28.4%, New York 28.3. So they're
Damn.
in the 28 range. Yeah. The bottom five, 23%, 21%. You know what I mean? So the tax rate is crazy. Think about that in dollars and cents wise when you
Yo,
look at what
that's
the
you gotta look at $600,000. 30% is 200K. Damn near. That's like 175.
yeah, let me put the map up again for those watching. That is the map. Any surprises on here, Core, or did this kind of play out the way you thought it would play out in terms of where people are
Not
making?
yeah. The more dense population, the more you know what I mean. It take to live. You know what I mean?
So
Because
here's what's interesting to me, right? So you always figure New York, California. When you look at the map, though, the one thing that stands out in the map to me is like Washington State. They get into it in Washington State. And I understand a lot of that might be like Microsoft and Starbucks money or what have you. It's probably where a lot of that comes from. But if you look at the map, it just stands out, right? Because everybody thinks about New York and California. But Washington State takes more in Washington State than it does in New York.
yeah, because that's the Amazon money.
Yeah. Yeah. Amazon's base is in Seattle, Washington as well.
I think they got a base in Washington. I'm not sure if it's based in Seattle.
All
I
right.
don't know if
Yeah.
it's Seattle, but I know they based in Washington.
Because I know Silicon Valley is kind of what brings up the California part and all that, but I'm just looking at like Seattle, Washington. I know that Microsoft, which is I mean at this point, what's Microsoft one or two in terms of the most valuable companies in the world? So that kind of stood out to me. That's the one thing that stood out to me. And then like that Mississippi, Alabama, all the way down there. If we break this down in net worth or income, they're always at the lowest, which is interesting too.
But so it coincides with all of those other educational studies too, about
Yeah.
who got the top 50 in education and all of that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So if you look
Mm-hmm.
at the education and the salaries, they kind of line up.
So in Pennsylvania, we're actually 19th on the list, by the way. Another thing that's like a little wild to me is we're 19th, 20th, North Dakota. North Dakota is ahead of some places like Georgia, Arizona, North Carolina. Some places you wouldn't, like you wouldn't think that Delaware, you know what I mean? South Carolina is like North Dakota is ahead of all those things. So what's popping in North Dakota?
The land,
But
it
again,
take
this
a
is
couple of dollars to live out there because you live in it's either you know what I mean, like you gotta make a couple of dollars to live out there because or else you gotta go shoot elk and deer. You know what I mean? Like
What
if
I'm
you
saying is
wanna
this is income, so there has to be some sort of employer. Now I gotta look
yeah,
this up. I gotta do the
yeah,
research to
now
figure.
now who's the number one employer? Well, the number one employer in every state is probably the government, but besides the government, who's the number one employer in and you said North Dakota? All right,
Yeah.
let me get my phone and look up the number one
Crazy part is
employer.
here's the crazy part. Here's the crazy part. So Pennsylvania is 19th. Actually higher than North Dakota is South Dakota. South Dakota is 18th. So it's South Dakota, Pennsylvania, then North Dakota. So in the Dakotas, people are getting to a couple dollars because they come across like they come both of them come higher than things like Oregon, where Portland lies, Georgia, where Atlanta lies, like Arizona, North Carolina, even Rhode Island. You know what I mean? Tennessee, Delaware, like all these places are behind North and South Dakota in terms of what it takes
I
to be
mean,
in the 1% income base. You know what I mean? So that's interesting. Someone is paying high incomes in those Dakotas. I don't know who it is, but
Georgia surprises me because they have two things that are really big. They have a big movie scene and a big music scene, which is why I'm surprised that they're not higher on the income to live there.
see, now this leads to a different question. When we talk about entertainment, right? A lot of folks think that entertainers are making money, but it comes to find out, man, it ain't too. A lot of them dudes be broke.
Yeah, they they live in the John Shaft life
Popularity does not equal income or net worth. You know what I'm saying?
at
Like,
at all.
yeah, yeah. So we gotta always keep that in mind, right? So I think I'm gonna share this with everybody. I thought this was an interesting thing that I came across. Wanted to share. so you guys can, kind of like let me know what you think about this in terms of what it takes to be in the 1% across the nation. And the question I want to leave you with is this: have you ever considered, or would you practice geo arbitrage, where you're getting paid in one place but you're living somewhere else? Because the thing about this is the cost of living is different in these different places. I know that I can go to somewhere like a Mississippi or Alabama, and my money is going to stretch longer. A lot of times people practice geo arbitrage trying to move out the country, but I'm talking about staying within the country and just looking within the 50 states and figuring out how to do that. I remember back in the 90s, the big thing with a lot of folks in Philadelphia, New York, folks was trying to like figure out how to get money up here and live in Atlanta. You know what I mean? They were spending like $200,000 and come back with full estates, and we like $200,000 in Philly, you get a row house.
Yeah.
Anyway,
I mean that's how I'm kind of living in Texas, man. Like for the same price I paid for my house, I'd probably be living in a 2-bedroom, 1 bed.
Listen, that's geo arbitrage, man. Anyway, man, so I want y'all to answer that question. Would you practice geo arbitrage? And is anything shocking to you about this specific study or look at income to be in the 1% in all the 50 states? So that's the question I have. Other thing I want to share with everybody is this, right? And this is kind of tied to that same article in the same, it's kind of tied to that as well. Let me share this real fast. This was a tweet I saw from my brother Kevin Matthews, who's been on our podcast. His brand is called Building Bread. But he put out a tweet that I thought was very interesting, right? Because it was similar to what I was already researching for the show about this income. And he said, and I think what prompted him to post this was there were like a lot of tweets and things going around about Joe Biden just proposing a 40 whatever percent tax raise or whatever, tax rate, not raise, but tax rate. And people were like flipping out about it. So what he tweeted was, there needs to be a study about how poor people react to proposed taxes on the wealthy. By poor, I mean those who make under $400K a year and have assets under 10 million. When people say that they want to raise taxes on a wealthier group, the loudest defenders are people that have never made this kind of money or had this kind of assets.
All right, I can tell you why.
All right, tell me why.
Because they still live in the American dream instead of the American reality. The American dream is that you'll make it into those tax brackets, and then when you get there, you don't want to be taxed like that. But the American reality is that 96% of people die in the same tax bracket they were born in.
Interesting, right? So it's interesting that's your thoughts. So I thought about that. I'm like, is it because they think that one day they'll be there? And I ain't trying to be a dream killer, because I know people be like, man, on a Wednesday show.
I'm just saying though, but that for me is that's the only reason to defend it.
So, and again, I want to make this clear too. I'm not defending Biden's tax rate or anything like that, but I think that Kevin's sentiment is true because I see it. And I was thinking along the lines you were, Core, but something else occurred to me too. Is I was reading a post by, shout out to our brother Malik Carter, real estate coach Carter on IG. I was reading a post he put up, and I was just reading the comments. I was just lurking. I didn't comment at all. And he was talking about how a lot of our folks cape for Elon Musk, right? And people were in the comments like, well, I got to find me a new billionaire to root for. And I was sitting there when I read that, I'm like, why are you looking for billionaires to root for?
Like, so, I'm gonna tell you this, and I'm gonna tell. I'll say this with no bias at all. That the fastest way to become a billionaire is to be friends with a billionaire. Like that. It's not through hard work or none of that other stuff. The fastest way to become a billionaire is to be born into it, or to have a friend that's, you know what I mean, that's a millionaire or a billionaire. Because that's the fastest way to get there. All the other ways.
I think that some of these things that we think or believe or have been taught by, and when I say taught, I'm not talking about from parents or teachers. I'm talking about through mass media or things we consume. Some of these things about, like, you just work harder than everybody else and it'll put you ahead of everybody else. It's not true. And it's not that I'm saying I'm against hard work, but what I'm saying is
hard work is for suckers.
I agree with you, but hard work alone ain't enough. That's what I'm telling you, right? You know what I'm saying? Like, you got to put some work in, but that alone ain't going to do it. The second thing is, that your knowledge, skills, and ability will always equal to you being ahead of someone else, right? Some people are born on third base, and it just is what it is. Like something I heard Corey say before, and I thought was funny. I think we was in our camp one year, and the kid said something about something being fair. Corey said, "Nothing fair is what you pay to get on the bus," right? So I laughed at it, but I thought it was like it's true, right? It ain't fair out here.
Ain't nothing fair about the world. Like
Yeah,
you get what you like. That's the misconception of what people. My thing is there's equitable and then there's fair, right? Equitable is the equal opportunity to do things, right? And then there's fair. There's no such thing as fair.
Things ain't equitable either, though. That's the other part.
What I'm saying is, what most people mean when they say fair is they mean equitable, right? The equitable opportunity.
You know what? I don't even think that's true. I think people mean the same or equal, right? And I think equitable and equal are different.
So my thing is this: I don't want anything to be the same or equal, because if I'm better than you at something, I want better treatment. Flat out. I don't care about your feelings or anything. If I'm better than you at something else, and if we're playing a sport, right? The better players get paid more money, right? If we're in a setting where, you know what I mean, we're doing something intellectual and I'm intellectually farther advanced than you, I want to get paid more. Like, I don't care about your feelings when that happens. Why should I care?
The world don't work that way either, though.
It doesn't. But what I'm saying is, if you want to talk about fair, right? Is it fair that European people had a 400-year head start on black people in America, and that we were either born to America or brought to America? No, it's not fair. But what's equitable is right now we can do the very vast majority of the same things that the other people can do.
Now, here's why I'll disagree. I don't think it's equitable, right? Because you can't become equitable, right? So there's a photo that always goes around where people are trying to look over a fence, right?
Yeah.
And they give like 3 crates to each person, but each person is of a different height, and they're saying that, okay, this is where we are now. We're giving everybody.
That's fair.
That's fair, but it's not equitable, because if I'm 5'1" and you're 6'1", that's not equitable, right? So right now, all of us have 3 crates. But it's not equitable because you have 400 years to get started, right? And again, that isn't even my complaint right now. But what I'm saying is most people have no idea what equitable means. All they think about is fair. But at the end of the day, even if you look at the chart that we started this show with, sometimes you could just be born in the right place, right? You could be born in the right place to the right family. And that puts you in a different situation than someone who's born in a different place. Now,
I don't believe in fairness. Fairness that's malarkey. Like, people that believe in fairness is always going to be fighting. I don't need to be I don't believe anything is fair. I believe that I should get what I do. You know what I mean? You are what you do.
Yeah, to a certain extent, I agree with that. But here's, I guess, the question I have is overall. Maybe brought this up was Kev's tweet. I'm a shout to him because he always shares thought provoking information. But why I still do? It's taking me. I have a hard time understanding why we defend billionaires that way, right? I'm not a billionaire. I told you on the show before I never will be a billionaire, because on the way to becoming a billionaire, I would always give away those resources.
The vast majority of whatever it is.
That's a personal thing. That's not to say that those that it is what it is. That's just how I feel, right? Because it doesn't take a lot for me to be satisfied in this world, and I care about people in a certain way, right? That's just me. That's me personally. That's my personal. That's knowing myself, right? That's being self-aware.
We're very similar, which is why we work well together.
Yeah. So, but I still don't understand that kind of backlash, and I still don't understand people actually communicating. Yo, I gotta find me a new billionaire to root for. Like,
the way that sounds, it just sounds so goofy that, like, just to hear those words come out, like reading those words would have probably, I would have probably eye rolled, because I scroll past everything on social media because I'm barely on there. But
it's actually,
to hear you say those words, like, I want to throw up. Like, what is wrong with y'all? Like, what's
Here's the
really
thing,
good with them?
one person, other people would then comment like, "Well, how about looking at such and such and giving out people that you could?" So the thing is, that's a thing that people do. Everybody watching this or listening to this, give me some feedback. Have you ever
But
heard
you know
like?
what? I know you know what it is. I know what it is. It's the New York Yankees in the Cowboy syndrome. Like people that root for the big, you know what I mean? For like the or people who pick up a sports team because like all the new Golden State fans. You know what I mean? Like
Let me ask our audience this though: have you ever seen this in the real world? And hopefully, I mean, I don't know who everybody. A lot of people watch our show.
hey,
Listen, do you
we
root for
know
billionaires? Like, and if so, why? Because I really want someone to explain it to me. And I'm not judging anyone. I'm not slandering anyone. I want to
I know.
understand. I want to understand. I really want to understand
I
the
don't.
psychology. I want to
I
understand how
don't. I
psychology.
don't want to know. I don't want to know anything about that psychology because
I do, because
I have no idea to understand people that I don't want to have nothing in common with. So
well, it's not
I'm
about that. It's about reaching other people, right? So if I can understand why people do that, then I understand how to reach people in a way to kind
yeah,
of like.
I'm see me and you are divergent in that, right? Because
Mhm.
we spent a lot of time reaching people and I like our approach to it, right? You build strong children instead of try to redirect adults, right?
Yeah, but here's
So
the problem with that. Children are picking up on these things, right? The children are picking up like they
my
live in a
thing is
world
that's part of it. Well,
full of
I would rather make it my mission that our children not even get into those habits,
yeah, but that's
strongly
what I'm
into those
saying.
habits.
Unless you understand why those habits exist, you really can't even tackle that, right? Because we're growing up in these kids now are growing up in a world full of influencers. There was a study
TikTok
done.
and
There was a study done.
IG influencers, and yeah, I
That's,
get it.
that's what billionaires are to the adult. They're the influencers, right? So there was a study done recently that said like something like 60% of American kids, that's their goal or their dream in life is to become a. There's more kids right now that want to be an influencer than it is that want to play in the NBA, NFL, or MLB. That's where we are, right? That's what the data says. More
That's
kids
more
want to,
realistic. That's gangster.
right? So now here's the thing, right? Um, so me understanding the psychology is like, yo, because it's just I don't understand it. So I'm just looking for help. I mean, maybe somebody that can give me some feedback, maybe some studies or articles.
Give all the feedback to Jim.
Yeah, give it all to me because I want to learn and figure out because
There's
this.
things I don't care about in the world, and why you like billionaires is one of them. I
Yeah, but
don't give
guess
a
what?
damn.
If you really want to help the babies, you're gonna have to learn sooner or later because it's something that's going
I
to be.
know there's a level of teaching that you can do that will influence whether they, you know what I mean, influence that.
Yeah, but you always tell me what you taught me. Everything comes from environment, and but this is all part of their environment. If their mom and dad out there looking at influencers and they're getting on TikTok and they're following influencers, it's like you know, strange times we live in. Let's just put it that way. And I know we went all over the place because we started with just income in the states, but all
No,
this.
but billionaire is an income status. That's the thing.
Well, yeah, it's a net worth status, but still, but
Network,
here's
yeah.
yeah.
I
So here's the thing though. Um, a couple questions. What do you think about the actual the chart we shared, information about income, which led to our conversation about people taking up for higher income people and people that have wealth, um, even though those people will never see that amount of wealth and never have that amount of income. They defend it, and he said it should be a study done. I agree with you, Kev. It should be a study done because that psychology would be
I
interesting
want
because
to I
that's
want to say something that's real foul, but we call those people a certain thing in the neighborhoods we come from. Um, those people are DEs.
I know what you're saying. You It's a Philly thing. I get exactly what you're saying, but I'm just saying that in order for us to look, we got to help break our people out of this cycle, man. This is one of the things that don't get talked about, but it is what it is, man. All right, y'all, give us some feedback. Let us know what you feel about anything that we share. We shared data on income. We talked about people looking up the billionaires or looking for billionaires to actually follow. Let us know what you think about that, man. We're gonna
Yeah,
get out of here.
that just
Shoot.
sounds foreign, dog. Like that just sounds like a whole foreign language.
Yeah, it
Like,
sounds wild. Definitely sounds wild. Anyway, man, with all that being said, man, we appreciate the support. Give us feedback. Corey got last words before we get out of here.
Do better. If you looking for a new billionaire to follow, do better than that, please. How about you follow your you know what I mean? Whoever is your goal, follow that person. Like
Man,
but don't be. It take a lot to get. Um, Billionaire is a lot of times. It's 1,000 times more than millionaire. You got to be a millionaire 1,000 times to be a billionaire. So like you gotta look at the reality of that. It's like 5 black billionaires in the whole country. So you gotta look at you know you gotta look at what's going on. Be more realistic. Don't do that to yourself. Like just be
and
better than that.
And all I'll say is, if we get billionaire, follow people with integrity. Find people that got integrity, and that's who. If you're looking to someone to follow, but hopefully everybody ain't looking for someone to follow. Be a leader yourself. But if you are looking for someone to follow someone with integrity. But as we always say, it's not about how much money you make; it's about how much you keep. Game elevates, and we'll see you guys on our next episode. Peace.